You are listening to CrossTalk, a safe place to discuss addiction, recovery, harm reduction, and everything in between. Support for this podcast comes from the Kentucky Opioid Response Effort and Advocates of Recovery. Content and production by the team at Turning Point Recovery Community Center. Now, buckle up and get ready for the show.
Welcome everyone to CrossTalk Recovery, the recovery podcast that supports all forms of recovery. I'm Matt Lewis, and I'm here with
Michelle Fonda
and Brett Hamilton.
Brett, welcome. I found out about Brett a few months back when my dad gave me an article they'd written about him, and I was really impressed about what he'd overcome and what he was trying to do. So I invited him on here, and he was gracious enough to accept my invitation. Brett, welcome, man. Tell us a little bit about your journey through addiction, into recovery, and moving forward from there, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Brandon, man, I really appreciate you reaching out to me, dude. It means a lot. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I love the opportunity to be able to share my story, what God's done for me in recovery, what recovery's done for me, and then what a mission I've started since then. So a little bit about my story, man. I was a mother's boy who self-seeked my father's attention. I was a kid that had daddy issues. My dad was affiliated with other people and other things, and I always self-seeked him all the time for personal closure as a child. Some say I was spoiled. I was fortunate. I had a lot of things. I didn't know the essence of the darkness that my dad was doing to get things like that affiliated for us, to obtain things. And my behaviors that I exhibited at a really young age was, the basic child stuff, manipulation, justification, the disobedience, right? Not because I liked being in trouble, because I knew that the insanity, right? I knew when I got home, my dad was going to yell at me, and that was going to be my attention that I self-seeked to get, right? And it wasn't the attention that I wanted. By all means, the insanity was it's not the attention that I wanted, but it's what I had to get. Fast forward, all right, into I was the person that drank and drugged successfully with pinky out. You know what I mean? There was a time where drinking and drugging was fun. I was the gentleman that showed up, pinky out, smoking the marijuana, right, taking the shot of whiskey, drinking the beers with pinky up. I was the cool young guy. So I had thought, right. Unfortunately, I crossed that line. They say there's a line. Unfortunately, I crossed it. So in 2009, I'll jump into where it all spiraled out. In 2009, my best friend and a buddy of ours was in a fatal car accident. I was the passenger, my best friend was driving, and my buddy was in the back seat. I'll never forget it. It was August 28th, 2009 was the day we hung out. We left my mom and dad's condo on August 29th, 2009 at 3 o'clock in the morning. And what happened was we were drinking and drugging, of course, so typical teenage stuff. And we flipped a 2005 Boss Mustang on State Road 62 going towards Madison and Hanover in Indiana, and they both died. I was the only one that made it, long story short. So I was then induced into a coma for, I think it was a couple of weeks, almost a month, close to a month. I suffered a lot of things from that car wreck. I had a tracheotomy done. I had 2 chest tubes, a brain tube, feeding tube. I had all these tubes done to me. I was in the hospital for quite a bit, only to find out that they died. I was the only one that made it. So that, long story short, that's what happened, right? But what really struck me was that these doctors, now granted, listen, I love doctors. Thank God for doctors. Thank God for nurses that go the extra distance. But these doctors told me that, I was going to suffer from PTSD. I was going to suffer from pain and all those things like that. So, of course, I did what anybody did, and I loaded up on all the prescriptions that I could possibly get my hands on. And I was different. That made me different from everybody else out there, right? Because, see, I was getting mine prescribed. So I thought, right, I wasn't no different than nobody, right? I was still trying to cover up things that I was dealing with on the inside of me that I couldn't deal with. So, long story short, when those pills didn't work, I went back to the doctor. I was like, look, man, these just ain't working. And just like any good doctor, well, we'll try these. So we'll up the dose, we'll up the quantity. I did what just anybody else normally did, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of us can have that same experience. That's how I got started into opiates too, was I had knee surgery, Lortabs were prescribed, fell in love with them, and then so began the long journey. Those weren't good enough, started selling them. A lot of people have that exact same story. Maybe not as tragic of a path to get there as yours was, but, it's sad that that's how it began. And luckily they're trying to curb that now.
Yeah, it actually got worse, man. Like that was just the start of it, right?
Yeah.
Because here I am trying to do prescription medicines like a gentleman, and it didn't work. You know what I mean? Like it didn't work. So long story short, man, I started trading. I started needing more cash, stopped going to work. I was like, well, you know what? I've got so many of these. I'll just part with these, right? Just like you said, normal people stories. And then, my mom passed away in 2015. So that was a heartbreak for me because I was locked up in a detention center in Bullitt County. And it was one of those weird things, man. I'll never forget it. The guard came and was like, the captain wants to talk to you. And I was like, dude, get out of here with this. I'm not telling on nobody. You know what I mean? Well, I had no idea what the captain wanted to talk to me for. Long story short, man, I get up to the front. They put me in a room with a phone. They asked me, can they get me a Mountain Dew, a Sprite? And I'm like, well, look, I'm not telling on nobody. I don't know what's going on, but I don't want no part of this. And he handed me an envelope with 2 phone numbers on it. I recognized the phone numbers. So I was like, okay. So I went in the room. They closed the door. I called the number. It was my Uncle Craig. I'll never forget it. He was like, the first words was, hey, man, you know that I love you, right? And I was like, yeah, I love you too, dude. What's up? And he's like, here's your dad. Look, I've seen my dad cry maybe like 3 times my entire life, and he was bawling on the phone. And I was like, my dad don't talk on jail phones. So I was like, what's going on? And he was like, your mom died, dude. It broke me. It broke me. 2015, she died at 48 years old. That's young. 48's young. So he was like, your Aunt Sherry's on her way down there to bail you out of jail, funerals tomorrow, whoop-de-woo. So by this point, I've developed a habit for heroin and meth. That's where my pill money, that's what's going on with my prescription medicine. I'm trading it now for street drugs, right?
Right.
And so now I was an IV user. I tell people I'm transparent about it. Look, once I started seeing how it affected other people, there was no way I was going to do it any other way. I was either going to go to the top or I was going to, you know what I mean? Like it's all or nothing. So my mom passed away in 2015. In 2017, it got worse, man. My addiction had spiraled out of control. I'm no longer employed. I am a straight dope fiend junkie. And I've got a reason to use. So I thought, right, well, my friends died. My mom just passed away in 2017. My dad's 2 brothers died. My grandmother passes away and my sister dies in 2017. It was like a ripple effect, bro. And I was like, God doesn't care about me. Like if he cared about me, he wouldn't take all these people away. But I didn't understand then what I understand now, right?
We'll be right back.
Did you know that recovery from substance use disorder and mental health go hand in hand? That is why the caring and compassionate mental health professionals at Four Rivers Behavioral Health in Paducah are here to help you find your balance. They are proud of you for making the changes necessary to live a healthier life and would love to see you reach your full potential. Give them a call at 270-442-7121 or stop by the downtown location at 425 Broadway in Paducah, Kentucky.
Hey y'all, did you know it's illegal to own just one guinea pig in Switzerland because they get lonely? Here at Turning Point, we don't want you to ever be lonely either. That's why we're open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Always feel free to come hang with our friendly staff, and don't forget your guinea pig. We're located at 415 Broadway Street, downtown Paducah.
So my jail stays continue to get longer. They continue to progress. It's a disease of a progressive illness. It gets worse, never better. Right? We understand that in recovery, it gets worse, never better. Now, I didn't understand it at first. See, I got thrown in the rooms in 2016, and just like anybody else, I was there to get a meeting sheet signed, and I had reservations. Like, I'm different from you all. But something hit, man. 2020 came. I was doing another state sentence, and my dad passed away. Because, see, when my mom died, me and my dad got close. I finally developed a bond with my dad that I'd self-seeked my whole life. The problem was my dad, I can't diagnose anybody, but he drank and he smoked and he did drugs every day. He didn't have no days off. He had no days off. He ripped and he ran, and I guess you could say he was a functioning one, because like I never seen him not pay bills. I never seen him not do things, Yeah. So, but when he died in 2020 and I was locked up, reality set in that, like, holy cow, the man, my mom, my sister, and dad, like, they're all gone. You know what I mean? Like, they're all gone. And whenever I got out, man, I like to say that I instantly got my life together. Right, I went on another run when I was released. I finished my state sentence, and I went on a run, man, that literally about killed me. And I had a friend that I'd been in the madness with, right, and he had gotten sober. I hadn't seen him in about 13, 14 months, but he reached out to me. I'll never forget it. My buddy David, he reached out to me and he said, I'll never forget these words. I literally just overdosed like 2 hours before the phone call, and I answer the phone call. I get out of the hospital, and he's like, hey, man, your dad just passed away. I've been a really bad friend not, being there. Are you ready to change your life? I'll never forget those words. And, like, the joy in his voice, right, was so like, oh, dude, like, it melted me. I was like, what do I got to do? I was like, I'm not going to treatment. He was like, I don't want you to go to treatment. He's like, come to my house, detox. Man, I don't want you to be on the streets. I don't want to lose you. And he came and picked me up. He lived in Bowling Green, and I was in Louisville. So we were on two different parts of the match. He 12-stepped me, man. He took me to his house. He put me on a 1975 love seat. But I was blown away by this. I was like, dude, my friend's got a nice rental house. He's got some vehicles. He's working 2 jobs. I was like, either David's getting high undercover or he's really, really sober. And come to find out, he was really, really sober. That was the worst detox. Now I've detoxed just like anybody else in a jail. But, like, when you're done and you're detoxing, it's absolutely brutal. I mean, it was terrible. I was coming off alcohol, meth, heroin, Suboxone, Xanax. By this point, I was doing what you name it, I was doing it. I didn't care anymore. Just like most people, when they're on their verge of going out of here or getting sober, you're doing the most. Well, about 13 days of being in his house, started feeling better. The detox has gotten better, and he's like, look, man, if you're going to stay here, I don't want you to pay no rent, but you do have to have a job. And I was like, bro, I can't work. I'll take my first check and I'll jet up out of Bowling Green. And he was like, well, what are you going to do? He had took me around all these people the previous day, and they all was talking about God and how they went to treatment and worked the 12 steps. And I was like, you know what, maybe I've missed something. I was like, man, I think I need to go to treatment. So let me jump in the solution. So he's like, he's all for it. He's like, where do you want to go? And I was like, I need to go away from, like, everybody. So I go to the Campbellsville Healing Place in Kentucky, Taylor County. And I'd like to tell you, man, when I got there, I dove straight in, but I didn't. If I'm being honest, and I'm being rigorously honest, I was there to get a little bit closer to Louisville. I did want to quit, but I was there to get a little bit closer to Louisville. And on day 63, I had my first spiritual experience at the Healing Place. Man, I'll never forget this. So I woke up late. I went down to the breakfast line, got my tray, and I hit my shoulder on the door. My food went everywhere, and I went the other way. And looking back, it's so funny. Everybody laughed, but I was so mad that morning when it happened. My buddy comes over. He's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I'm leaving." He's like, "It's 7:30 in the morning. You're not going nowhere." I was like, "I'm going back to Louisville." So I go upstairs, and it's really funny. If y'all have ever been in treatment, you know what I'm about to say. Like, I'm starting to pack my stuff, and I've done accumulate it more than I came with. So I'm like, I'm not about to walk all the way to Louisville from Taylor County with all this stuff. Yeah. I'm going to call the dope man. So I go downstairs and I lie to staff. I'm like, "Hey, can I use the phone? I got to call my sponsor." And she's like, "Are you having a bad day?" And I was like, "You have no idea." So I go into the sponsor room phone and I start blowing him up. You know how we are. You know what I mean? I'm blowing the dope man up at 8 o'clock in the morning. And back to back on a sponsor phone, just for him to answer aggressively like they always do. He's like, "Hello," and I'm like, "Hey, look, it's whoop-de-whoop-de-woo." You know, I'm like, "I need to come back to Louisville. Can you put me on?" He's like, "Call me back at 12. He hangs up on me, and I'm like, "What am I supposed to do until then? I'm not about to leave the healing place with all this stuff." You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because, you know, by this point, I'm done a couple months sober. You know, like, so I've got a little bit of my mentality back, not a whole lot, but I'm starting to be like, you know what, this is a big hike. So I started really trusting the process, man. And I call him back at 12:30. Look, I got chills thinking about this, dude. And he answers on the first ring. And I'm like, "What's up, man?" And he's like, "Hey, man, I don't know what you're going through, but when you can, I sent $40 to Walmart. Here's the number. I wrote it down." And he was like, "You're a good dude, man. Keep yourself in treatment." And he hung up on me. And I was just like this. What just happened? What happened? I got off the phone. I was baffled, man. I was literally baffled. And I was like, that was literally God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. Yeah. I'll never forget walking out of the room, and there's this old timer. He's got like 42 years sobriety. His name's Mike Kiger. He's in Campbellsville. He travels quite a bit, a few places, but he came walking down the hallway, and he was like, "Brett, what's wrong?" And I didn't like this old man at all. We got a great relationship now, but I finally start to tell him what's going on with me. Well, Mike wears these glasses, so he pushes these glasses up, and he folds his arms. He starts looking at me, and he's like, "You know what your problem is?" And I was like, "Dude, this dude's going to give me a gem in recovery. Like, he's going to give me a diamond." He's like, "You ain't got God in your life." He punches me in my arm, and he keeps walking. Oh, it infuriated me so bad. I was like, who does this old man think he is, telling me I don't have God in my life? But he was right. The thing is that he was right. I'm in 3 o'clock class, and my best friend, he's 72 years old. He was doing class. Yeah, I said it, 72 years old. He was talking out of We Agnostics. I have no idea what he was talking about. But I remember looking at the steps and being like, why can't I get this? Like, what am I missing? And, like, he did this little shift during class, and it caught my attention. And he said, if you miss the spiritual part of the program, you miss the whole program. And it was like fireworks in my brain. Like, literally, you'd have thought the Thunder over Louisville just happened inside of this noggin. I was like, oh my gosh, I just got to get spiritual with God. Well, I finally hit the book, and I me and my sponsor, we dove into it, man, and I've stayed sober. Just for today, 5/11/20. This is my sobriety day. Completely abstinent, man, from any mind or mood altering substances. No substituting one for the other. I don't take it. I mean, my biggest cocktail these days is a sinus pill, an ibuprofen, and every now and then some Flonase up the nose. You know, if the allergies are too bad. That's my biggest cocktail these days. And I'm blessed. You know, I'm blessed. I got downloaded a vision by God, man. So I moved out of the healing place, and I moved into sober living. I was like, why not try this sober thing? Like, let's take all my sponsors' suggestions. So that's what I did, man. I moved into sober living. I got a job. It wasn't the best job, but I was grateful for that first job that I got out of treatment, man, because I hadn't worked, and I couldn't tell you. Seriously, it'd been like 4 or 5 years since I'd for real worked. I'd say let's go with 5. It had been about 5 years since I truly worked a job with all of my heart. And I did, and I got humbled, man. I learned the essence of the dollar. And I'm not talking about George Washington. I'm talking about 4 quarters, 10 dimes, 20 nickels, 100 pennies. I learned the essence of the dollar and how to stretch it. And because I'd never done it before, right? I didn't have a driver's license. I had 3 DUIs and 2 driving on suspendeds. I was not driving on the road for 5 years. But I knew I was getting close to being able to get all that stuff back. So I dove into it, man. And in sober living, I got a vision from God. And I seen everybody sober together. And it was like this event thing. It was like a vision, like a dream, man. And I remember it said Recovery United. And I was like, okay. So I started doing some research, some homework, and I built a team, and I got an attorney, and I got a certified public accountant. We got to work, and Recovery United formed as a tax-deductible 501(c) nonprofit, and it's growing. I've had that thing for a year. It is my baby. We do all kinds of things. I know that you said you wanted me to touch on that. So
yeah, for sure. We want to know all about that.
Yeah, Recovery United. At first, it was a free liaison service. So what had happened was people were calling me. Let me rephrase that. Parents and grandparents were calling me that I knew, hey, so-and-so is not doing good. I know you can help them. And I'm thinking like, golly, I can barely help myself. What makes you think I can help them? You know what I mean? Like, I'm barely having a hard enough time keeping Brett sober. But the fact that they reached out to me meant something to me, right? Because Bill writes in the textbook of Alcoholics Anonymous that nothing ensures immunity than intense work with other alcoholics and
right.
It works when all other activities fail. So I was like, all right, well, here's the deal. Let me meet them. And at this point, became a peer support specialist, and I started working in treatment. So I'd made a beginning, right? I made some connections, and we got a few people in treatment, and these people were donating money for my time, and I wouldn't take it, but they were like, so, you know how people are sometimes, like, please, or give it to charity. So I was like, you know what? Why not become a tax deductible, and we can do this both ways? But it didn't stop there. So then we started a clothing closet.
We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. You want to know something? My biggest issue with meetings is, despite their name, they're never about me. Here at Turning Point, all of our meetings are for you and about you. We have meetings at least 3 times a day, 7 days a week. We are located at 415 Broadway, Paducah, Kentucky. Call 270-444-3621 for more information.
As a woman in recovery, I know how important having a fellowship of women has been for me. Come join us at the Women of Worth All Recovery Support Group here at Turning Point, 415 Broadway, Paducah, Kentucky, every Friday night at 6 p.m., where we discuss our personal experiences in recovery. Hope to see you there.
So Chuck Brothers, and I would love to do this again with one of my directors, Chuck Brothers the third. He's out of New Haven. He has a thing called Chuck Brothers Loud and Proud. Well, he joined with me in Recovery United. He's one of my directors on this, and he is amazing. I couldn't do this without Chuck and everybody else that's involved. So we have this huge place, dude. We've got kids' clothes, baby clothes, women's clothes, men's clothes. Like, we are flooded with donations. As soon as we get rid of these clothes, it fills right back up. I mean, in a matter of time. Like, we can't give enough clothes away. And I mean, let's just face it. When you get donations, it is what it is, right? I mean, it's hard to sort through all that. Yeah. But that was another thing we did. One of the biggest things that Recovery United has done is we've started hosting recovery events, something I have found as a peer support and soon to be a TCADC. I've learned that the common fear is people don't know how to enjoy life in sobriety, right?
Yeah,
Without having
absolutely.
something in one of their hands, or running to the bathroom to sneak off. So why not host recovery events? So that's what we started doing, man, and they are blowing up when we do them. Like they're huge, and the cool thing about them is that they're growing. So like we just did the 5th annual Hope Shot this year at Green River Lake. We did the 2nd annual Breath of Life and the 2nd annual Sobertober. We're only at 3 events. And then we hosted an Attitude of Gratitude project. So we partnered up with the Haven Clubhouse in Taylor County. It's a AANA clubhouse right there. It's a normal place where people go and have their outside meetings or home groups and all that stuff. We partnered with them. We wanted to raise money for them. So we went out and cleaned up the streets of Taylor County, right? The Taylor County donated $750 to us, and we gave it to the Havens Clubhouse, right? So it was really cool because you had a bunch of addicts and alcoholics out there picking up trash in the neighborhood, picking up alcohol bottles and rigs off the road, and we had burgers donated to us. We played games, dominoes, and we had round robin meetings. We had 3 speakers come out and share their story. We had shirts made. We did raffles. We gave gift cards away. I mean, it was just fun, right? And then the 5th annual Hope Shot, dude, we rent a pavilion out at Green River Lake, and we rent some pontoons. We have a big long grill, and we just have like a party a sobriety party out at the lake. This year we gave away 3 cornhole boards, brand new cornhole boards. We raffled them off. So we raise all this money, and you're like, what do people do with the money? Well, we donate it back. We sow it back into other places, other treatment centers, other expenses as far as like, somebody that may need a ride to treatment. Well, we want to make sure that we got the gas or they got the gas to get there. If I can't take them, I got to pay somebody else to get there, and pick them up, get them to treatment. And we're growing, man. Like this is really growing. We're putting together, and you all are the first to get this information. We are building sober living buildings right now in New Haven. So where our clothing closet is, man, we're opening up sober living rooms. The walls are going up. The 2x4s are getting nailed. It's growing, man. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about. I'd love to do this again and bring Chuck Brothers along because he's the one getting that going, man. And we want to be able to help people, because what happens when people get out of treatment and they go back to the familiar, right? And or they don't have the pocket, they don't have the money, so we'll be able to provide a pocket for them and assist them with transportation to get to the job, to get to the court. We want to be those hands and feet of God, right? Because God loves his children, but I tell people this all the time, especially sponsees that I work with, like, don't pray for God to get you out of a hole, and then whenever you wake up with a shovel in your hand, be like, well, he didn't answer my prayer. Well, you better start building you some steps with that shovel. Because everything requires work. And the whole thing with Recovery United is there's strength in numbers, right? So I don't want Abigail or Todd or Brian or, those hypothetical names, right, to feel that they are not alone, like, or that all they have is nobody in recovery. We all need each other, right? I need you to stay sober and vice versa. Yeah. Like, we need each other. So we're growing. The Facebook page has been up for about a year, and it's struggling. I don't have a lot of time. Whenever I made it, I had time. And now that this thing's growing, I need more hands. So, any tech wizards, people that care to scroll, pass that word on, man, that we need people. It would be a service job. So, like, it's a service job. You could actually use it on your reference and stuff like that, because we are a 501(c) tax deductible nonprofit, so you could use it as a job. You wouldn't be getting paid for it, although when this thing does take off, your experience won't go unnoticed. You know what I mean? So spread that word out. We're always needing help managing the Facebook page. I'm open to ideas. Most of the time, I'll just let you run with it. I mean, you think it's a good idea, let's roll with it. You know what I mean? Like, we just want to help people, and it's really a good marketing tool that we use. I mean, everybody in the world is on Facebook. So, you know, I appreciate this opportunity that you've given me tonight, man, to get out here, talk about my testimony, man, talk about Recovery United. I appreciate it, Brandon, for real. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I relate to a lot of what you said, man. Definitely without getting in touch and having a relationship with God, I wouldn't have made it to this program or to this point personally. You know, coming through treatment, coming through addiction, all those things, what you're trying to do there, a lot of what you do is what we do here at Turning Point, man, trying to show people fun and recovery, outreach, getting people into treatment. Once they get out of treatment, helping them to stay sober and stay connected to positive people. We do events like fun events like you do, man. I'd love to come up to one of your events next time. So
I was thinking the same
thing. I got to keep track of that. So when it is, I'm sure there once it gets warmer again, you know. But sounds like a lot of fun.
I got a vision, man. I'm thinking about doing this trudge event. So like you hear people all the time like, running marathons, you know. So that you all are getting the first live of this, you know. So it's been talked about, and it's getting formed as we speak, and nothing is settled yet, but it's getting ready. And we're looking for more people to get involved. So I'm saying that's why I'm saying this now. It's called Trudge for Warped Lives of Blameless Children. So we want to raise money for the kids that are blameless children, that are in the foster homes, that are in because their parents have either passed away from overdoses, right?
Yeah.
Or they are locked up, or they have given their children up. And I understand things happen. But that's a nice piece in the textbook that gets overlooked. You know, the warped life. I consider myself one of those warped lives, right? Because I came from a home where drinking and drugging was the normal, right? Yeah. People were doing it with impunity. They weren't suffering any consequences, going to jail. You know, that I walk in a room and I knew the difference in the smell from a cigarette to a left-handed cigarette. You know what I mean? Like, and I was 8, 9 years old. And that'd be a cool thing. Like, just everybody get together, walk a little 5K trudge, you know, walk with purpose, you know, we're walking with purpose, and have like a little cookout, or we get something catered, you know. I'm trying to figure out a good location to do it at, you know, because to walk a 5K or to do something like that, we're going to have a certain area to do that in. So just so you know that we haven't found the area, and I wanted to share that with you all because I'm open to ideas.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, keep us informed on that, and we'll try and help you promote it once you figure it out. That's a great idea.
Yeah, we'll do, man. And I'd like to. We're going to be in touch more, man. I really appreciate the opportunity of doing this.
Absolutely.
And any time that we can help you all, or vice versa, I want to be a part of that. You know, we're all about connection and making connections and things like that. So.
Yeah, man, that's what I really try to bring about. I really push for unity in this program, between the programs, between the communities. Like, we have a strong recovery community here in Western Kentucky, and it's awesome that I know there's a big, strong community in Eastern Kentucky. And I like to think that we're more working together. You know, we all have the same goal, and that's trying to help people get better and find a relationship with God and better their lives, and then to give back, you know. So I'm really proud of what you're doing, man. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your testimony and sharing a little about what you do. I hope people check you out. Go to Facebook, check them out, Recovery United. Donate if you can, and we'll be looking for upcoming events and ways to get connected and stay involved with each other, man. So I really appreciate it, Brett.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, man. Stay in touch with me, okay?
All right, man. God bless.
Thanks.
God bless.
All right. Well, that was fun. Michelle, thanks for being on here. You know, as always, watch us on YouTube or check our audio versions out on Apple, Podbean, Google, Spotify, all of them, and stay grateful.
If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction or in recovery and needs guidance, speak with Turning Point's team of peer support specialists by calling 270-444-3621. You are not alone. and we are proof that recovery is possible.